everyone, welcome back to my channel, True Crime with Jess Rose. I am here every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. If you'd like to join on the live, that'd be amazing. Or this story goes up on the pre-recorded one. That's probably where you're watching it now. I'm also over on TikTok if you'd like to join me over there, which is Jess Rose 5472. Or you could just like, comment and subscribe, which I really appreciate as well. Or just watch. That's just as good. So that's fabulous. Right, now that I've got all that out of the way, I'm going to start with tonight's story. It is, as they all are, horrific. That's why you're here. So yes, I'm going to begin now. So it's the Distressing Cristina Pangalangan Story. I really hope I'm pronouncing that, but I have heard it a few times. So I believe that's the pronunciation of a surname. And we're going with this story. It's a US story, and it's Walterboro, South Carolina. That's where this one is. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're actually gonna start with Christina's mum and dad, just very briefly. Okay, so her mum is Rita Marie Fraser. Her dad is Walter Pangalangan. Yes. Now Rita, from what I've seen, was a really bright woman. Okay. She got her bachelor's degree in early child development and went on to become a teacher. Her dad, it was in physiotherapy, I believe. So a lot of so I've just jumped straight into when they were married. I've just jumped straight into there. Basically, Rita meets Walter. Okay, so I've just fast tracked their meet up straight away. Now they do meet, they do get married. They go on to have two girls to begin with, Ashley and Elizabeth. Okay. Now, as I was saying, Rita became a teacher. Walter became a physical therapist. He provided a lot of the financial support with the family. I will say that. Okay. So this was their life, married. Like, it all seemed okay in the early days. From what I've been able to find out, I think everything was okay to begin with within the marriage. Now, on the 28th of March 2006, along came Cristina Pangalangan. Okay. Now she was quite a bit younger than her older sisters. And I think there's about 10 and 12 years between them. And very cute little girl. She was born with cerebral palsy and developmental delays. She was also prone to seizures. Now, she couldn't walk or talk, all right? She couldn't really grasp with her hands, so like her fine motor skills weren't there. So she couldn't feed herself properly. Now, she also had great difficulty swallowing, all right? So her diet was mostly meal replacement shakes and small amounts of solid food, cut up very small. Now, it said Christina, she could, and you can see there are pictures of her smiling, so she could put across how she was feeling with her facial expressions and stuff. But like I say, she couldn't really do anything for herself. Okay, she was in a wheelchair. She would have to be lifted from wheelchair to bed, to settee. You know, she was still in nappies. You know, she really did go went oh my goodness, put your teeth back in, Jessica. She really did have a hard start to her life. Okay. Now, like I say, she could convey emotions. where she was happy. And she's a really pretty little girl in the photos. She also could crawl, and she could swim. Obviously, there's a picture of her with a rubber ring, but she could do these things. They go to Disney World. She was living as as um as fruitful a life as she could. All right. So as the years went by, though, okay, as the years went by, her dad Walter, I believe he was nicknamed Wally, he began drinking more heavily. Okay, so there wasn't just that though, he was drug taking as well. It doesn't say what drugs he was on. And he was still functioning, he was still going to work, he was still providing financially for the family, I believe, although a lot of money was now going on this kind of partying lifestyle. And it said that Rita, she really wasn't up for this. She would not put up with this behaviour whatsoever. So she wanted to ask him to leave, basically, but remember I said he provided the say 3/4 of the financial put into the house. That it was mostly him who put into that, even though Rita was a teacher. So she would have earned money, but nothing compared to what he was earning, okay? So she felt stuck and she didn't know what to do for the best. She really didn't. But eventually, though, she did ask him to leave. She did. And he was very naughty, was Wally, because he never paid child support. Ever. Ever. He'd said that originally when they broke up, he went off to the Philippines. And then he come back and just didn't pay for these children. Now, her older girls, now remember I said Ashley and Elizabeth, over the next couple of years, they go on to grow up, they move out, they go on to eventually go into relationships themselves. So with the girls moving out, and obviously she's no longer with Wally, it became quite difficult for Rita. Now, like I say, with Christina, it was a full-time job to look after this little girl. It really was. It really was. It would have been very, very hard. There's no two ways about it. It would have been not even, you couldn't even, because when I was learning about this case, it was like, would it be like having kind of a newborn forever type thing? Because obviously a newborn, they can't feed themselves, they can't walk, can't talk, those kind of things. But it would be much harder than that, because that newborn stage only lasts, really, if you're looking at them being able to, do things, even if it's just feeding themselves, you're looking at maybe a year, and they can start picking for themselves and things like that. So it would be much, much harder than even that stage. Now, don't forget, though, Christina's getting bigger. She's getting heavier. She's older. And she still can't do anything for herself. So it is said that Rita, who was still having to lift her and carry her, put her in a wheelchair, to put her on a sofa, to put her to bed, she was starting to have back issues from doing this. But the girls said, and people in their lives said, you didn't see Rita without Christina, you didn't see Christina without Rita. She doted on this child, is what's been said. She loved her. It said that Christina, really, she wasn't a demanding child either. What it was, though, is she did want constant company. She loved cuddles, she was very affectionate. So, it said that about her. But apart from what you had to do for her, she wasn't a screaming child. She wasn't constantly crying. She wasn't like that. But I can imagine it being I'll be honest, I can't imagine it. I think it'd have been very, very hard, but that's her mum, and she loved her, and it was said she was just a really sweet girl. And like I say, in the photos, she's such a pretty little thing as well, and she's got these smiles in the photos, so she could express herself, uh, facially, or if that's the right way of saying it. So they would know if she was happy or sad, or so it it's just so sad. I've just gone fast tracked in my brain through the story, so please bear with me. Now, even though she was under this pressure, Rita was at home, and it would be pressure. I know it's her child, I understand, and it would still be the fact that the dad's just got off gallivanting. The older sisters really have got their own lives now, so they're not really helping. It would be a lot of pressure. It would. Plus, don't forget, Rita's still working full time. She is. So Cristina would go to like a school in the day, and Rita would go to work, but it must have been a lot. It must have been. Now, Rita was still doing very well at work. Apparently it was said she was named Teacher of the Year twice. But it was around this time, I've learned, in around 2014. Now, at this point, Cristina would have been around 8. And it says Rita, she began to change towards the care of Cristina. And if you look at the pictures of this case, you can see that I was shocked actually to see the earlier pictures of Rita, Cristina's mum. I was quite shocked to see the earlier pictures of her because she looked so healthy, so happy. And to see the later pictures, it looks like a completely different woman. It genuinely does. So I mean, and I don't just mean she's aged. I don't mean that. I mean, this is like completely different woman. So, so that's what I was saying. There are pictures of her changing as well. Now we get to 2015, and Rita begins dating a man called Larry King Jr. All right. At that point, I think he was about 46. Now, Larry himself, he had 2 kids, 2 boys. He was no longer with his wife at this point, obviously, but he got on very well with his ex-wife. And what had happened is Larry was a bit of a party man himself, alcohol, drugs, those sort of things. He was in engineering. He had a good job. But he did like the partying lifestyle, which I assume he hit after he got divorced. Now, once his sons had got to their teenage years, though, they decided they wanted to move back with him. So he knew he had to clean his act up, and he did. He got clean of everything. And he began bringing up his boys, and it was around this point that him and Rita started dating, okay? Now, he looked after his 2 boys in his home. She obviously looked after Cristina in hers. They never tried to blend the families. They never tried to move in with each other. It just wasn't the relationship they were having. But what Rita would do in order to be able to go on dates with Larry, now don't forget his boys are teenagers, he can go out on a date. She can't do that with Cristina. So she was getting babysitters more and more. Now, the babysitter she was having to get, don't forget, you can't just get a normal babysitter, a normal 13-year-old babysitter to come and watch your child and put them to bed, or put your child to bed and just leave them there to watch them. It has to be someone who is qualified to be around a special needs child. for emergencies, even if she puts Cristina to bed before she goes out. What if there's an emergency? What if something happens? So, and those things cost more money. So these were the things that she was doing at that time. But it was said she was getting a bit annoyed. She didn't believe she was getting the help from her family and even the babysitters themselves that she felt that she should get. I don't know how I feel about that. Yes, you could appreciate help from everywhere, any way you can take it. But I don't think you should feel entitled to that help. And I got the impression that it had got to that point where she felt like entitled, that she was demanding that help with Cristina so she could go and have fun with Larry. That was kind of the inkling I was getting at the beginning of their relationship, okay? Now, as the years go on, the next 2-3 years, Larry's boys do grow up and they do move out. So he's like, right, party time again. So even though he'd got clean for his boys, once they'd moved out, he's now considering himself, even though he's in a relationship with Rita, he didn't want I got the impression he didn't want to be married again or have her and Cristina move in. He still wanted to go out and have fun. It was said he was like with the bikers, so he'd go off on these trips and drinking and everything else. Now, Rita's obviously looking at this. His kids are grown. Her older two are grown. But she can't join him on these partying weekends because she's got Cristina at home. She's got a child that depends on her for everything. Everything. And it shouldn't have been a case where she should have felt torn. It shouldn't have been. But it seems that that's what was happening. Now, Rita would break up with him. They would break up and be on and off again. They did have that kind of relationship. But then she began to, I kind of took it was like, if you can't beat them, join them type attitude. And she began going out with him, partying. Okay. And Cristina began being left with babysitters more and more. All right. So, and at this time, although Cristina was getting older, as I've said, she still needed help with everything. So this is a lot of pressure on a babysitter as well, okay? So we get to 2018, and Rita leaves her job as a teacher, all right, to go on to teach early childhood education classes for future teachers, like teachers in training. She became a professor, all right? So that's what she went on to do in 2018. She was also renting out rooms in her home. Now, it's been said that she was still struggling with money now. Apparently, her salary would have been good. She would have retired from, I've heard it's sort of 25-year period of teaching. So she would have retired from that by now. So she would have had that money coming in. I don't know where the money was going, but she's renting out rooms in her home, okay? So we get to May 2019, all right? And she lets a girl by the name of Brittany move in with Brittany had 2 children of her own, all right? And Brittany was only there for a couple of months, but she noticed that very quickly after her moving in, the house started to get dirtier and dirtier, which suggests to me that it was only cleaned while she came in to look round, maybe. And she said that she would notice a smell of urine really strong coming from Cristina's room. Rita then began asking Brittany to babysit. Now, don't forget, as I've said, Brittany's got 2 young children of her own. She also works and now she's been asked to babysit for Cristina. When she would say no, Rita would get quite moody about that. And one of the times she asked Brittany to watch Cristina overnight. Now, Brittany was like, right, okay, fine. She was only supposed to be going out for a few hours. She was originally, it was for a few hours to go on a date. Then she says to her, can you have her overnight so I can stay at Larry's? And Brittany was like, look, okay, I'll have her, but I need you to come back in the morning because I've got work. And she was like, well, your kids are going to their nans. Can't you just send Cristina with them? She's like, no, I can't do that. And she goes, well, I'll tell you what, just bring her into work with you, leave her in the car, open the windows, and just go into work. I do it all the time. This is what I was saying about this change that had come into play, because the mum I'd learnt about years previous, who is also a teacher, I just don't see that being a thing that she would have done. So there has been a change come into play. Is it down to Larry and meeting Larry? I'm not sure, because of the time frame. It's hard to tell. Did that change come in with Larry, or had it already started coming in previous? It's hard to tell. Okay. So Brittany obviously refused that, to leave Cristina in the car with the windows open while she went to work. I can't believe she had the gall to ask that, to be honest. That blows my brain. Okay. So now, CPS, okay, we're also trying to conduct welfare checks around this time. All right. And the reason they were knocking on the door, now, the reason I mention this is because Brittany had noticed there was knocking on the door, and Rita had said, don't ever answer that door. And it was because CPS was sniffing around wanting to see Cristina. And you might be like, well, who's put that report in? It was actually Cristina's school. I remember I said she goes to school every day. It would be a special needs school, but that's where she would go every day. They put the report in because what they were noting was, again, when I mentioned the urine, Cristina's hygiene was starting to take a hit. And also they were noticing like untreated sores on this child and blisters. And they'd actually called Rita in and says, look, we want you to take this child, your child, to the doctors and get these wounds treated. And Rita was like, yeah, I've just been very busy. I'll take it tonight. Don't worry. But when Cristina came into school the next day, nothing had been done. Wounds are still there. There's obviously haven't been treated. She obviously hasn't been to the doctors. They can't ask Cristina because obviously she can't speak. So they just had enough, and it was them who called CPS. Okay. Now, no one answered the door. I don't know if CPS ever returned, but nothing was ever done. Okay. So, and in fact, I heard from somewhere that Rita said that if you're going to call CPS every time she hurts herself, then the next time she hurts herself, I just won't send her into school. Kind of threatening the school. It's all very shifty. Now, so Brittany moved out not long after all of this, okay? So now we come up to Friday, August the 2nd, 2019, all right? Cristina is now 13 years old, okay? And Rita, remember I said she's training teachers who will be working with special needs children, okay? And there's a girl in her class, and she says to her, look, I've got a daughter with special needs. Why don't you come back with me? And I can show you what I do with my daughter, Christina. And this girl's like, okay, it's Friday, it's the weekend. She's like, all right, okay. So they go back to Rita's house and she's showing this girl how to change Christina and what she needs to eat. And, yeah, obviously the protein shake she has to have, and, how you put her to bed and everything else. She goes through all this and then she goes, right, okay, can you watch her now while I go out for a date? And this girl's like, excuse, what? She literally just thought this teacher was doing her a favour by allowing her to see how this professor copes with her own special needs child. Instead, what's actually happened is, yes, she's shown her, and now she's like, right, lovely, so you've got it. All right. It's just shocking. But this girl's like, okay, all right, okay, fine. Okay, that's fine. So she thinks she's only going to be gone a couple of hours. Rita calls her later on that evening into the night where this girl's thinking she should have been back by now. And she's just like, oh, I'm just checking on her. And she's like, yeah, she's okay, but when will you be home? And she's like, oh, I'll be back in a few hours. It's okay. Or, do you know what? Do you mind if I stay out for the night? This girl's like, by the sounds of it, and what I've seen at the trial, she's quite a young girl. She's obviously not very assertive, let's say. And she just kind of was like, okay then. So the next morning, Rita, who's supposed to come back that morning, doesn't appear, all right? And this girl's like, there's no food. There's nothing for this child. What am I supposed to do? But there were the shakes. So she just gives Christina these shakes and she's like, all right, hopefully she'll be back. Hopefully she'll be back. Do you want to know when Rita, Mommy Dearest, returned? Now remember, she went out on Friday, August 2nd. She didn't come back until Sunday, August 4th. She stayed out the whole weekend. And when she come back, she didn't come back till 5 o'clock in the evening. So she'd been gone for over 48 hours from a girl who didn't even know she was going to be watching Christina. I just thought, there's something really wrong here. And it was said that even though she was obviously quite upset and everything, the girl didn't kick up too much of a fuss. She just went home. And I would presume she'd think, right, I'm never babysitting for you again, or going round to your house full stop. I would imagine that's what she'd be thinking. But she goes home. The girl's name was Lindsay. Lindsay goes home. Okay. So we're still on Sunday, the 4th of August, 2019 now. Okay. And later that evening, Rita brings Christina round to Larry's with her and they stay the night. All right. I don't think that was a regular occurrence. I'm thinking it's mainly only when she really genuinely can't get a babysitter, maybe. But she brings her around to Larry's. So now we get to Monday, the 5th of August, 2019. All right. And what it is Larry's house has got security cameras. Okay. And one of these security cameras is over his front porch. You can kind of see his front door. He's got quite a wide porch with like a swing and stuff on it. And then the camera also, you can see the steps going down from the porch. And you can see his garden. You can see where his truck is. You can also see a car on camera, which turns out to be Rita's car. Okay. So at about 11 a.m., what you actually see is Rita and Larry come out onto the porch. And it's quite obvious that they're having an argument, okay? So Larry turned, then you see at 11:16 a.m., okay, Larry walking out with Christina in his arms. Okay, now remember, she can't walk, she can't do anything for herself. So he's got Christina in his arms, all right? And he walks down to the car. Now she's 13, all right? You would have to be a little bit more gentle. when placing her down, she would be quite heavy. You'd have to maneuver yourself to put her in the car. He walks down the steps, yanks the back door of Rita's car open. Rita still stood up on the porch, and he practically throws her in. This poor child who wants nothing. She can't even verbalize what's happening here. And he throws her in and he closes the door. Okay. That was at 11:16. Now we go to around 5 p.m. Okay. 911 are called. Okay. I've heard the conversation. I've heard the phone call, sorry. And it's Larry who's called 911. All right. Now, police and paramedics arrive. And when they arrive, what they can actually see is legs in the grass of his garden. Remember, I says got his porch. I don't know if I mentioned, but it's all grass. Even though he's got the cars parked, so it's not like a car park. It's grass, and you could see the legs of a child in this grass. All right, and when they go over, it's little Christina. Okay, who's 13 years old, who done nothing to anybody, just wanted love and needed care, needed patience, needed understanding. And in Larry's overgrown grass, she was deceased. Okay. She was covered in blisters and burns from head to toe. Head to toe. Okay. Now, when they took her temperature, Christina's, her temperature was at 110 degrees. And it was only showing that because that was as high as the temperature gauge went. Okay. So it could have been higher. All right. Now, when the paramedics and the police got there, Larry was outside. Rita wasn't. Rita was inside. Okay. And Rita, when they went inside to be like, what has happened to this child? She says, well, she was in the car for a few minutes, but I did leave the air conditioning on. Okay. So, police, after Christina's taken, you can see the state of this poor child. Larry and Rita are charged with murder, criminal conspiracy, and great bodily harm of a child. Okay. They're both still saying she was only in the car a couple of minutes and the air conditioning was on. Okay. The police alike and the paramedics, the autopsy, they're all saying this child baked to death. That's what happened to her. How did that happen? When she was in the car for a couple of minutes and the air conditioning was on. How did that happen? Look, don't know, but that's what happened. Larry put her in the car. This is Rita saying this. Larry had put her in the car. I went back inside just to get my cigarettes. Come back out, and this is how she was. We called 911. This is their story, and they're sticking to it. Even their own defense don't believe it, but they're sticking to this story. Okay. So when they get to trial, they both plead not guilty. Okay. And what it said is that the two had been doing meth all weekend, and that's why she hadn't come back to Lindsay, who was watching her child, who didn't even know she was going to be watching her child that weekend. And when we'd seen at 11 o'clock that arguments on Larry's front porch, it was said that it was because Rita had been cheating. And it said after the fact that this was actually true. It was true. She had been cheating on him. And Larry had just wanted them to leave. He just wanted them to go. And that's when he brought Cristina and thrown her into the back seat in temper. Okay. So then we see what actually happened on that day. So yes, he did bring her down to the car. He did throw her in the back seat. Okay. Then they go back inside and they don't come back out until 1:45 p.m. By that point, Cristina had been in that car 2.5 hours. Right? Sounds awful, doesn't it? They'd been inside. Do you want to know what they'd been inside doing? They'd been inside making up. That's what they'd been doing while this child was in the car. Okay? Then we get to 3 p.m. Okay? Nearly 4 hours have gone by now. And you see Rita come outside and she goes to the car because apparently it's then she's looking for her cigarettes that are in the back seat. And she realises apparently that she's left the keys in the car. Now, I'll say in a bit why I don't even believe that part, but she reckons the keys were left in the car. All right. So then you see Larry running in, they come out, they get a coat hanger. Now, this is 4 hours. 4 hours this child's been in this car. Let me remind you, it's the 5th of August. It's the height of summer. So he comes back out with a coat hanger. Now, I've already told you this is grass. There would have been a rock or a brick or something, a bar, anything to get in there. But no, they try a coat hanger. Because apparently it's very expensive to replace your windows, you know. So when they can't get in it, Rita says, right, okay, well, I've got another key to this car at my house. Now, to get to her house and get back, it's around about, I've got it about 50 minutes. I've heard between 40 minutes and an hour. So I'm going to say 50 minutes. 50-minute round trip. Okay. And they both go. They both get in his truck, leave Cristina still in the car, and they go to her house to get the spare keys. All right. 4:30, they come back. All right. Even when they get back, you see them sat in the truck talking for about another 10-15 minutes. Who knows what they were talking about. Then when they get out the truck, they have another little cuddle. They've had a lot of cuddles in all this on this security camera. It's been a lot of cuddling. And they have another cuddle. And then you see Larry pressing the key fob. And what's actually happening, you see the lights and the indicator lights flashing because he's locking the car. He's pressing the lock button. He's that spaced out. He doesn't realise that he's not pressing the unlock button. He's pressing the lock button. Okay. Eventually, at 4:50 p.m., she's been in that car for almost 6 hours. And Larry finally opens the door. And then he sees the state she's in. And he takes her out of the car. He takes her out of that car and places her face down on the grass. And you might be like, well, where's her mom? Oh, she goes inside. She just, oh God, just broke me back. She frog marches inside. And it said that it was Larry's dog. Not Larry. Not Rita. But Larry's dog that sat next to Cristina on that grass. Larry's dog showed her more compassion in that garden on that day than her own mother did. It's just, words fail me. They absolutely do. So you might be wondering, okay, well, it's summer, but just how hot was it? How hot was it in that car? Okay. Now, it could have been the middle of winter. Windows could have been open. She didn't have she didn't have the motor skills to open the door anyway. But let's just say it was freezing. All right, not freezing. Let's just say it was room temperature. 6 hours in the car. What? Okay. But the temperature was 89 degrees Fahrenheit outside. That was the outside temperature, which for us in England would be about 30 degrees Celsius, sorry. So within the car, they worked out that would be about 130 degrees Fahrenheit, which for us would be 54 degrees Celsius in that car for 6 hours. They baked her. They just shoot. Oh God, it's just awful, absolutely awful. Oh, and by the way, yeah, there was no shade. She wasn't in any shade. Not that would protect you from that heat, but she was fully in the sun. You can see on the camera, you can see the sun blaring into that car. Okay. So the autopsy did show that she had vomit in her lungs. So she'd got that. Obviously, she began vomiting. She began swallowing it. It got into her lungs. They also noticed that she was malnourished. She was malnourished, this child was. She had many infections from poor hygiene, her nappies not being changed regularly. She was being neglected anyway. And her own school had highlighted that because CPS dropped the ball again. Oh, she's not answering the door. Oh, never mind. Do you want to go and get coffee? I don't know what conversations they have with each other when someone doesn't answer the door. I genuinely don't. Just absolutely sickening, the whole thing. But okay. They both pled not guilty, as I'd said. In September of 2023, they were both found guilty, of course. The prosecution closing arguments were absolutely amazing. He was great. He really was. He laid it out so much better than I could. His wording's fantastic. The jury really didn't take that long to come to their guilty verdict. And they were sentenced to 57 years, Rita, and Larry got 52 years. Okay. Now, Rita's daughter, all right, I'm not going to say which one it was. I'm not, because I don't know how I feel about what she said. All right. She was up on the stand, this daughter was, during the trial. And it's the way she was talking about her sister. It's the way she was talking about her little sister. She'd be like, she'd just speak really bad about her. She'd be like, she looked like a hot mess a lot of the time with her hair. And when she was talking about Disneyland, remember I said they would go to Disneyland. She says, oh, it was great when Cristina come to Disneyland. I thought, all right, okay. All right, maybe she's talking nicely now. She's like, because she'd get treated like a princess, and it meant that we got to go on all the rides, and we'd get to jump the queue. And okay, it was really bizarre on the stand. I don't know if she was trying to. I mean, because this was the girl who said that they believed that the meth was put in Rita's drink, because now it was said that in her marriage she was very anti-drug. She wasn't one for alcohol. She'd been sober all her life, apparently, so the daughter was saying. So I can understand it being a little bit of a shock. I can understand that. But it's, the facts are there. They're there, that Larry or not, drugging her drink or not, this child was being neglected. She was leaving her, whether she was going off to do drugs or not. And the judge actually said, or the prosecutor said, one of them said, hang on a minute, the meth would actually give you a slight excuse, not a reason, an excuse. You're trying to say you wasn't even on meth. Then what was your reason for not getting her out of the car? So in trying to make herself look better, she ended up looking a lot worse. I don't know. I don't know if it's the daughter just trying to defend her mom and trying to make it better and ended up making it worse. I just don't know. I don't know about the excuses Rita gave, the things her daughter was saying. The whole thing left me really just sickened and really sad about this little girl. Sad of the family that they were and what they turned into. Maybe it was fake. Maybe they weren't this great family to begin with. I just don't know. But it's something happened in around 2014 that just brought about such a massive change in Rita and Christina's lives. And was it Larry? Was it wanting to go out partying? Was it she just couldn't cope? Was it lack of money? Was it all everything combined? I just don't know. But something happened. Something brought about that change. And poor Christina paid for that with her life. I just don't understand how you can, she hadn't gone off shopping. She hadn't gone shopping and left this child. She was there. Neither one's good. I don't mean that. Because same daughter, sister of Christina, Rita's daughter, couple of years later, after what had happened, but I'm thinking it was before the trial maybe, got arrested for leaving her own child in a car. Look, that's how her sister had died. And she said, look, she said, my kids were it was 2 kids. She said, my kids were a little bit older. They had a drink. They could have got out if they needed to. She goes, but, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have left them in the car. And she was pulled up on it. But I thought, would that not put the fear of God in you to never, ever do that again? And or never do it full stop after that happening to your sister. And she did it as well. It was just crazy to me. Did Larry drug Rita that weekend? I'm not buying it. I'm sorry. I don't care what the daughter says. I'm just not buying it. It wasn't like everything was great up until that weekend. Everything was golden up until that weekend. I might be able to look at, that real switch in the lifestyle and personality at that weekend. But no, I don't believe he drugs her. I believe they were doing it together. Personally, my own feelings of it was maybe she saw that Larry's kids had grown and gone off and done their own thing. Her older daughters had grown and done her own thing. Maybe she, I don't know, maybe regretted having Christina later on in life, and now she couldn't go out and enjoy herself and take drugs and drink and party all weekend. It was that I just don't know, because there's just no excuse, no reason, no nothing that can ever be explained for what happened to this girl, this poor girl, and the hell she went through in that car for 6 hours. They can't say when she would have died, but she would have died in agony. Oh, this poor girl. And that was the Distressing Cristina Pangalangan Story. Oh, just awful, awful case. Sorry excuse for a mum. Sorry excuse for a dad. Oh, I missed out. I missed something there. Rita herself only saw it was a later article that I saw. Got married. She got married because her and Larry went out and bailed. Because if you remember, the trial and the sentence wasn't until 2023. This happened in 2019. They bailed out, them pair did, and went on and lived their lives for a couple of years waiting for the trial. She got remarried. So, not mourning for too long then, eh? Just ridiculous, ridiculous. So annoyed by this case, but thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. And like I say, I'm live every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. It'd be great if you could join me. Or if you could like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate that too. Or if you've got any thoughts on this, drop a comment in. That'd be great as well. But aside from all of that, thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you Thursday. Thank you so much. Take care. Thank you.